So aliens and predators have come to raid. Let's talk about that. Hello everybody, I'm Roadblock and this is a Raid Shadow Legends video. I kind of wanted to just review the news that dropped today, which is really cool. I didn't see any leaks about this or anything. Not saying they didn't happen, I didn't see anything about it. And they dropped 2 new champions today that are pretty cool, right? The alien from Alien and the Alien franchise, and the Predator from the Predator franchise, which obviously they have interacted in many different movies and I think comics and video games. So pretty cool. So in Lizardmen, we have the Predator here, who we'll go over, and then Dark Elves was the Xenomorph. So first I want to give my thoughts on the overall idea. I'm a little torn. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Now, remember, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying that you have to feel the same way as I do. I think it's cool to have these characters in this game. Like story-wise, it makes sense. Don't know that they fit. And it's kind of like, how come I think the turtles fit, but I don't think these guys fit, right? It's like, you know, to be honest, none of them fit. So I don't think it's a big deal. I'm just sharing my thoughts, sharing my opinions. It is a little strange to see these alien characters in a medieval fantasy game, but you know, they crash landed here, and that think about it, that can happen, right? So I guess I'm not really as doesn't really bother me as much as maybe I thought it did before I started talking. So yeah, but I think it's pretty. I think they look great. I will say that. I think they did a great job on the visuals. Their animations have looked cool as well from what I've seen in other videos. I, of course, don't have the Predator. I'm on my free-to-play right now, but I did buy the pack on the main account, not the free-to-play. I'm just on the free-to-play right now, but I got the pack on the main account. Listen up. I just got a new promo link that you can use to follow along with me on my latest free-to-play adventure and get a free Elenaril, as well as 3 more powerful epics as you level up. Here's how to do it. Log out of Plarium Play and uninstall. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champ. Don't miss out on your chance to get Elenaril right after signing up, as well as Fayne, Uugo, and Tagoar as you progress through Raid. Click on my link right now and let's crush this together. However, I didn't go the full pack, guarantee the champion day 1. I will work my way up to the champion. So I'm not spending that much money for Predator, who I didn't even really know if they were going to end up being good or not. So, but either way, those are kind of my thoughts overall. I do like that Xenomorph is the login legendary. And I did find something unique. If you guys aren't in this situation, which you might not be, because you're probably not doing the Michelangelo chase anymore. But obviously I still am, because I just came back, right? Well, that's really cool, is that I get to do 2 chases at the same time. And I think that's really, really cool. So I got to give Plarium a shout out for that one, because that's necessary in a lot of ways. So I am excited to do the Xenomorph chase. But now let's take a look at their kits. We'll start with the free one that most of you will probably, well, everyone will be getting. So for the A1, attacks 1 enemy, places the big version of poison for 2 turns, places 3 more if the attack is critical, which you hope it would be by building them with 100% crit rate, and then puts Perfect Veil on this champion for 2 turns. So I kind of want to talk about this, right? This is a free champion. All you have to do is log in 7 days, and you're going to get a 5-star blessing for this champion. You're getting 3 poisons on an A1. That is flat out good. Flat out good. Not to mention that there are a lot of different ways to get, well, if you were to use my promo code, who I think Ellenauril is still in my promo code, you get the poison activation from Ellenauril, right? No poison sensitivity, but then we also have Narma is out there as a promo, I think, and Narma just got buffed as well to be more effective with poisons and such. So, you know, if you're looking at an early game account, that's honestly, that's a really good A1 anyway. I mean, you're getting double poison or triple poisons out of an A1. When you think about like Kale, for instance, that's his A3, and we go crazy for that. So, you know, this just is really, really strong A1, period. Then we have the A2. Its Infest attacks one enemy before attacking, places a stun debuff and an Infest debuff on the target for 2 turns. These debuffs cannot be resisted if the champion is under Perfect Veil, which we'll get to that, but they will almost always will be. Places a True Fear debuff on all other enemies for 1 turn. This debuff cannot be resisted if they're under Perfect Veil. Revives his champion with 50% HP and 50% turn meter whenever an enemy under an Infest debuff dies. So first, I wanted to kind of like go into the lore on this one a little bit. This is brilliantly designed from an alien perspective, right? Because if you look at the animation, they send out a facehugger to infest that target. And it makes sense that if this Xenomorph was dead, but the facehugger, did its thing and a new Xenomorph busted out and replaces this Xenomorph. I think it's really, really smart design to play into that whole concept of the Xenomorph from Aliens, right? So I love this ability. And from what I've seen in other content videos, it looks like it actually hits pretty hard, which I just found to be really, really cool. So, and then I wanted to go over Infest a little bit more. So Infest, whenever an enemy under Infest debuff dies, deal pure damage to all other alive enemies. This pure damage is equal to 50% of the enemy's max HP who died while under the Infest debuff. This pure damage cannot be critical. The pure damage dealt, if it's a boss, cannot exceed more than 10% of their max HP. So what I find really unique about this, if you build the Xenomorph right and target somebody with a lot of you can do a lot of damage if you manage to kill them with this ability. But even then, what I find so great about this is the unique after effect. So you can apply Infest and even have a back and forth fight, and maybe your reviver or your support or somebody gets that final killing blow and then does damage to the rest of everybody, right? I find that very, very good. So I think it's pretty cool. Then for the A3, attacks one enemy 2 times. They deal 15% more damage for each poison debuff on the target. Makes sense, we're adding poisons. And then places Perfect Veil on this champion for 2 turns. For the passive, whenever this champion is attacked, has a 25% chance to place the big version of poison on the attacker for 2 turns. It cannot be resisted or blocked if the attack is critical. So I don't know if that means that the Xenomorph has to be crit in order for that not to be resisted. I don't know. If an enemy is under a poison debuff placed by this champion, decreases their defense by 20%. That's freaking good. Extra like this with a poison activator, I find this to be a pretty significant boss damage dealer. You don't think of poisons a lot in that way anymore, but with the Arachnid Elixir and then with the activation of poisons, I can see this being an effective against bosses, because that defense decrease by 20% as well is going to really allow you to do a ton of damage. And yeah, I love this kit. It makes so much sense in the realm of Alien. The perfect veiling, the infest, the caustic blood. It's just so good. I can't. I love it when they really theme the kits just right. And this is such a well-themed kit. I'm excited to play around with the Xenomorph. I haven't watched dedicated videos yet about the performance, but for a early game, for a mid game, I think there's a lot of value from this champion for sure. Definitely going to bring you value in different areas, including bosses, maybe even the faction wars, maybe even faction wars hard. Like, this is definitely a champion that I would be excited to get. So, which I am excited, and I'm going to get it for free, which makes it even better. So it may not be something that's going to be on my front line. It's not going to be somebody that I'm going to invest my best gear into and all my books and all of that. But this is definitely a champion that's going to have an impact on a lot of players' accounts, and I think it's important that we recognize that. So now let's move on over to the Lizardmen and take a look at the Predator. I find the Predator's kit also to fall into that, just really, really well done within the lore of the character. A1 wrist blades heals this champion by 30% of the damage dealt, single target attack. Whenever this champion successfully evades, and we'll get to that, An enemy skill and all of its accompanying effects counterattacks with this skill. The A2 attacks all enemy 2 times. After hitting the initially selected enemy, all other enemies will be hit in a random order. For the first hit, the damage received by the initially selected enemy will be increased by 75%, and then each subsequent enemy hit following the initial hit will receive 15% less bonus damage, which reduces to 15% bonus damage, and also destroys enemies' max HP by 30% of the damage dealt, which stacks up to 50%. For the second hit, the damage received by the initially selected enemy will be increased by 15%. Each subsequent enemy hit following the initial hit will receive 15% more bonus damage, stacks up to 75% bonus damage. I don't understand why this is so complicated. It feels kind of like Thor, the lightning that he does, but it's different. And I don't know if they like just made it different to make it different, or kind of what the reasoning is for it. Obviously it's a disc that's bouncing around, so maybe, you know, it's just try to keep it random, but it reduces damage but then does increased damage. It's like, I guess I just don't understand the thematical part of it, or even really like the gameplay part of it. So I don't know. Maybe it's so you can't manipulate it. Like, you can kind of manipulate Thor, right? You want to use Thor's first hit on whoever you don't want to hurt so that they hopefully get hit by the last one. So this makes it random in a way that you can't necessarily manipulate it, perhaps. So that's all I can really think of. I don't know. It's interesting. It's very interesting. This attack ignores 15% of each target's defense if they're under a veil or perfect veil. HP-based damage, by the way, I didn't mention that on the A1. For the A3, and that books down to a 3-turn cooldown. Good. A3 attacks one enemy before attacking, places a Hunter's Gaze debuff for 1 turn. This debuff cannot be resisted if this champion is under Veil or Perfect Veil. If this attack kills an enemy, places Block Revive on the target and a Hunter's Gaze debuff on a random alive enemy for 1 turn. The Hunter's Gaze debuff cannot be resisted if under a Veil or Perfect Veil. If this attack does not kill an enemy, places Perfect Veil buff on this champion for 2 turns and fills their turn meter by 50%. So from what I've seen, this doesn't, again, this is just one video very briefly. It didn't look like this hit that hard, but it has some interesting mechanics behind it. So I don't know. And obviously we always figure, you know, not everything is figured out, the proper way to build and all those types of things. So, but it seems interesting. It's unique that we're getting Hunter's Gaze as well, which, if you don't know, Hunter's Gaze, damage dealt to a champion under the Hunter's Gaze debuff cannot be decreased, blocked, redirected, or transferred. This applies only to damage dealt directly by skills and not from debuffs, passives, masteries, or blessings. Damage dealt to a champion under the Hunter's Gaze debuff will ignore unkillable block damage, increased defense, strengthen, ally, basically any damage reduction that exists out there. I think it's worth it to use this ability to place the Hunter's Gaze, but this ability in itself may not kill your target. So it might be more about placing that Hunter's Gaze debuff, and you'll hopefully be under Perfect Veil, because at the start of each round, places a Perfect Veil buff on this champion for 1 turn. Before this champion takes a turn, also has a 50% chance to evade an enemy skill and all of its accompanying effects. This initial chance reduces to 0 after this champion's first turn in a round. Whenever this champion kills an enemy, grants this champion a 20% chance to evade enemy skills and accompanying effects, stacks up to 60%. This I like. Perfect Veil showing up in the round in Perfect Veil makes a ton of sense because they're cloaked, right? Predators are always cloaked. That's kind of the whole thing. The evade mechanic I find interesting, and I know that's going to be so frustrating to deal with, because 60% chance to evade, oh man, that is going to annoy some people. Just think about a Loki and how difficult sometimes it can be to kill a Loki, and now make that Loki actually deal damage too. So yeah, I think it's an interesting champion. I don't know that it's going to do the kind of damage that we would expect from a champion that you spend money on, at least from what I've seen again in one other video where they were able to test him out. But I'm going to get him anyways because it's really cool. I've always liked Predator the movie, and I've always found the Predators to be very interesting. I haven't watched a lot of the recent movies, but I did watch Alien Earth, which was incredible. And I think Predator Badlands looks really good. So I definitely want to check that out. But yeah, I just am really, I do think he's a little short for what a Predator should be, but I think maybe because it's the smaller type of Predator. I know there's a lot of lore around this, and I just haven't had time to really get invested in it. But either way, I think it's pretty cool that they did this collab with Predator and Aliens and Predators. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I think it's pretty cool. I did go for, like I said, on the main account, I went for Predator. Not going to spend a ton of money on it. Don't think it's going to change my game very much, but I think it'll be a really cool champion. If you are a new player and you're looking to spend a little bit of money, I think that's a good option. Probably going to be very effective to steal some early arena battles. But I do think that if the damage isn't there, then the champion may struggle a little bit in the kind of later stages of this game. But it'll just be annoying more than anything else, as you're just constantly trying to kill it and it doesn't really hurt you. So, but yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty interesting. I don't know that they're really going to do a whole lot for the PvE side of things, but I think for PvP, you're definitely going to see. Well, Alien will do some stuff for PvE for early players. For PvP, I think the Predator will do things but I don't think it's going to be meta breaking very much. So either way, we'll call that a video. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. It is the best way to support the channel. I look forward to seeing all of you in the next one. Take care.